On today's video, we're talking about one of the best parts about the Twin Cities, and specifically one of the best parts about Minneapolis. One of the things that Minneapolis does better than anybody else. And no, I'm not talking about the water, I'm not talking about the trees, I'm not talking about the green grass and the natural beauty. I'm not talking about hiking trails or walking trails. I'm talking about biking and bikeability. And Minneapolis is consistently rated as one of the most, if not the most, bikeable cities in the entire country. Let's talk about it. Before we dive into Minneapolis specifically, I think let's quickly touch on just biking in Minnesota in general, because I think at a state level, the state is doing a lot to encourage the benefits that you see throughout Minneapolis, which are really quite plenty. So for one, there are traffic calming measures that the state has taken in their infrastructure in general, like raised traffic crossings, right? So crosswalks that basically are speed bumps as well. Of course, speed bumps, speed humps, speed cushions, as well as narrowing the roadway in general to basically encourage slower speeds. And so even if those are not specifically bike, decisions, they do actually help to encourage or help to improve the bikeability of the city of Minneapolis by way of the state. There are over 4,000 miles of paved bike path, of paved trails throughout Minnesota, which, to put that in perspective, you could basically drive or ride your bike from Minnesota to LA and back, and that's 4,000 miles, and that's just around the state. But this video is talking about Minneapolis specifically, not the state of Minnesota in general. Minneapolis has a long history of general bike friendliness, right? And literally in the year 1896, they said that 30,000 people were riding bikes on the regular throughout Minneapolis proper, which sort of prompted them to create the first paved bike path around Lake Harriet. And I don't know who necessarily designed the city. That's actually something I should look up, note to self. But I often say that I'm very grateful to them for how they happened to design it. They made it the city of lakes, they made it the city of parks, and now they've made it a city for bikers. And we have these amazing lakes within the city, and they decided to make it public lakefront for everybody to enjoy, rather than private lakefront for very few people to enjoy. But you still have these beautiful homes along the lake. They just happen to be buffered by a road and public trails. Real quick, as we're talking, as you're looking at the B-roll here, do yourself a favor, open up Google Maps, center on Minneapolis, right? So just type in Minneapolis, center on that. Select the map type in the upper right-hand corner, the little squares in the circle. Select map type, and then under map details, include the biking option, and just watch your map just light up with green. And those are all biking lanes, biking specific routes that are relatively protected or intended to be bikeable. You'll watch your map, it will just absolutely explode with the color green. How's it going, friends? My name is Jesse Lynch. I run the hardest working real estate team in the game. We're called To The Twin Cities, and you can check out our website, tothetwincities.com. But this YouTube channel is all about helping you find a place to call home here in the beautiful Twin Cities of Minnesota. And relocation It's what we do, it's what we focus on, it's what we spend all of our time trying to solve problems for, create systems for, and ultimately just helping people achieve. So if that appeals to you, do me a favor, do yourself a favor, subscribe to this channel, click the bell to get notified so you can see when these videos come out. And if you have any interest in working with us, we would love to help. You can go to our website, tothetwincities.com. We have a contact form there that you can fill out in like 30 seconds or less, or you can just shoot us an email directly to info@tothetwincities.com. It's another unbelievably beautiful day here in the Twin Cities. I'm very happy to be talking about this. This video has taken a long time to get to, partly because it's daunting and there's a lot to talk about. The B-roll is extremely extensive and took a long time to make, but also partly because it's summer. The summer is our busiest time of the year because we're helping so many people relocate, and that's kind of the time that so many people choose to make all that happen because of school years, etc. But I'm gonna do my best to keep this extremely immersive and really get you a sense of what it would be like to be a bike-heavy traveler around the Twin Cities. This bike path that I'm walking on, which I probably shouldn't be, basically connects Midtown down here with Lake Harriet right down there. It's part of the Grand Rounds scenic byway, one of the absolute gems of Minneapolis, if not the Midwest, if probably not the country. Let's talk about it. So the city of Minneapolis has 21 miles of on-street protected bikeways. So basically a lane in a street, right? That's designated to bike and potentially protected, sometimes by cars, by street parking, sometimes by, you know, basically dividers of some sort. We also have 98 miles of bike lanes and 101 miles of off-street bikeways and trail. Whenever we're chatting with people who are particularly interested in the bike-friendly aspects of the Twin Cities, the first thing that we have to at least mention or say, hey, check this out, is called the Grand Rounds. Right now I am on a very small part of the Grand Rounds. It is a 51-mile loop connecting the chain of lakes, the Mississippi River, Minnehaha Falls, downtown waterfront, etc. I'm gonna throw a map on the screen, and I'll actually link to this down in the description because it is very, very cool. It's a map of the Grand Rounds National Scenic Byway, and the Scenic Byway is basically made up of 7 different districts, byway districts. Right now I'm in the Victory Memorial Byway District, and we actually, a while ago, we sold a house, a friend of mine, not too far from here, and we actually started the video basically right here as a selling point for that house, because it's undeniable to be you know, a block from here is an unquestionable selling point. But like I said, right now I'm in the Victory Memorial Byway District. To the south of me is the Theodore Wirth Byway District, home to Theodore Wirth Regional Park, a beautiful, beautiful regional park. Also home to mountain biking. So I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna end the video there. So if that piques your interest at all, stick around and I'll at least show you a little bit of what's going on there. Then you have the Chain of Lakes Byway District. I think that is an absolute gem. It's one of the coolest pieces of all of the Twin Cities. It's home to Cedar Lake, Lake of the Isles, Midtown, and Lake Harriet, which then again all leads into Minnehaha Parkway. And yeah, the connectivity is crazy. And so the Chain of Lakes Byway District that leads into the Minnehaha Byway District, which then connects to the Mississippi Byway District on the eastern side, which then connects with the downtown Riverfront Byway District. And then there's also the Northeast Byway District. And probably the least intense part of this Grand Round area. And I personally think that even though it's all really exceptional, right? The access is super exceptional. I think kind of the richest parts of it. And so again, from where I stand in the Victory Memorial Byway District, I could end up all the way by Minnehaha Falls, right? Fundamentally on protected path, protected roadways, really protected trails. And I could take two different routes. I could take a lot of different routes, but I could take two different ways and fundamentally be on the Grand Rounds Scenic Byway the whole time. Right now I'm in Uptown, which is going through a lot of construction, a lot of changes in general at the moment. But right down here, we have the Midtown Greenway. And the Midtown Greenway is a 5.7-mile trail traveling from east to west in Minneapolis. And it used to be a rail trail or a train track, part of the Milwaukee Road Railway. It was started in 1992 by some, you know, probably pretty forward-thinking bicyclists in the Twin Cities, and now it's very heavily used by cyclists, inline skaters, runners, pedestrians, etc. You can see here there's bike trail and walking path, and for the most part, I think the entire way it's separated as such. So if I was here filming this video, I think I'd be pretty nervous that I'd be hit by a bike, but I'm here. And so I'm not. The Midtown Greenway runs basically from somewhere right between Bidemakaska and Lake of the Isles, all the way east to West River Parkway along the Mississippi River. It's fundamentally vehicle, automobile free, and actually a huge majority of the Midtown Greenway is basically much lower than the city streets, which makes it feel very protected, very easy to ride on. You're not that worried about vehicles. Although when you come up to the city streets, like here in Uptown, you then are obviously, you're gonna have traffic up at the top of those. So make sure you're being careful about that. And now this spot is very, very near and dear to my heart. This is the Minnehaha Parkway Regional Trail. It basically runs along Minnehaha Parkway, the street, which is basically just right up here. Again, a nice separated trail, separated walking path that runs along the creek, runs along the parkway, and it's nice and separated, peaceful, in the middle of the city, and I think offers, I don't know, a very, very special element to be in a major metropolitan area, in the city proper, with access to something like this. There's a level of peacefulness here, a level of beauty that is undeniable. Part of the Grand Rounds Scenic Byway, the Minnehaha Parkway Regional Trail. Basically, I just think of it as like Minnehaha Trail. It starts more or less just to the southeast of Lake Harriet and has connectivity into the lakes area byway system, again part of the Grand Rounds area, and then it runs from there east, clear across southwest and South Minneapolis, and fundamentally terminates at Minnehaha Falls, as does the creek. There at Minnehaha Falls, it fundamentally connects with like the Mississippi River Boulevard trails, Mississippi River trails, and also the Minnehaha Regional Trail, which heads south all the way to Fort Snelling and actually quite well beyond. You'll kind of see that some of this trail is also a non-paved path, but the whole way, right now it's across the creek from where I'm at, the whole way along is paved all the way, almost entirely removed from from the road, which we have the road just right above us here, and the other side of the parkway right above us over there. At this point, which, by the way, right now I'm in southwest Minneapolis, the southwestern sort of quarter or so of the city, and there are a few times where it sort of comes up to grade and it's basically at street level. Also beautiful, also fairly protected, right? So even though maybe not quite as secluded as this particular area, it still remains very far off the road, right? There's a nice buffer from the street to the bike path, and to me, that's so much of what makes this an absolutely stunning trail. And it helps that the Minnehaha Parkway Regional Trail also happens to go through several of my favorite neighborhoods in all of Minneapolis, in all of the Twin Cities, basically Southwest Minneapolis, and the Nokomis communities, which include neighborhoods like Lyndhurst, Tangletown, Hale, Page, Keewaydin, Standish, Erickson, all those things. And it is an amazing trail. And again, it adds that east to west connectivity that basically the Parkway and the Midtown Greenway are the two best east to west routes, at least south of downtown. There's also some more paths related to the Grand Rounds Scenic Byway on the northern side through Northeast and Victory Memorial in North. There's an event of some sort going on here, but this is all part of Theodore Wirth Regional Park, and there is a very large section devoted to mountain biking and all that. There's a place called the Trailhead pretty much right at the start of the mountain bike trailhead, I guess. There's also a disc golf course here. I don't know if you heard that, disc golf. There's also a golf course. I think it's a 9-hole golf course, 18-hole disc golf course. But we're not talking about that stuff. We're talking about biking, mountain biking. This is one of the most beloved places, certainly in Minneapolis proper. Another place that comes to mind is Lebanon Hills Regional Park. Beautiful, beautiful park in Eagan though, and then there's all sorts of other places in northern Minnesota that are pretty highly regarded. Okay, continuing Minneapolis bikes. And now I wanted to end this in downtown Minneapolis because I think it's like kind of an important aspect of what makes Minneapolis so bikeable is how they've managed to make the city very safe to bike in. This is Washington Avenue, arguably one of the busiest, at least traffic-wise, streets in all of downtown Minneapolis. And there's designated bike lane right here, and also a lot of pedestrian space. You don't have to ride just on the shoulder. You have a curb and a path that actually is paved differently than the walking path, and it's marked very well. It can even have a like don't walk sign specifically for the bike. At certain times it has crosswalks specifically for the bikes because the traffic patterns will behave differently. And I really just want to hammer home that Minneapolis isn't so extremely bikeable just because of the trails, right? Just because of the Grand Rounds and the Midtown. It's bikeable throughout. You can get all around Minneapolis, and honestly, St. Paul, maybe that's a different video, I don't know, but you can get all around Minneapolis without having to really ever end up in a very precocious situation, right? There are other places where you bike where you're feeling extremely exposed, right? Cities that are less bike friendly just haven't necessarily considered these things. Minneapolis, again, ranks one of the best, if not the most bikeable cities in the country, and I think rightfully so. It's not because the weather's perfect for biking, it's because it's been thoughtful, it's because the city, the state, has been considering these things for a long time. And I would argue that our cold weather, our cold winters, actually allow the city to lean into outdoor activities, right? They basically, because the demand is so high at certain times of the year, the infrastructure has to be better. We don't take it for granted that we have this unbelievable weather for not 100% of the year. And if you're interested in moving to Minneapolis, to anywhere in the Twin Cities, we would love to help you. It's what we do, and it's what we do better than anybody else. Go to our website, tothetwincities.com. We have a contact form there that you can fill out in like 30 seconds or less. We'll get the show on the road, and we will get you living here in the Twin Cities, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.